Day one of the legal tampering period is almost in the books. 49ers made a couple of moves and bought themselves something that's very difficult to find in the NFL. And we'll tell you what it is next. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. That man is Vish Kumar. And Vish, we are officially underway in free agency, and the Niners didn't sit it out.
Yeah, I think we all had a move that we were expecting. It was in that position, but I think they surprised us. And in my mind, they pleasantly surprised us. I was ready to be really happy when they announced 3 years, $48 million, $25 million guaranteed to Romeo Doubs. That's what we were expected to get, and I was going to be happy with that. To me, Romeo Doubs in this offense is a 1,000-yard receiver. But Romeo Doubs is exactly what I said about Romeo Doubs in the last show. When you have Romeo Doubs as your starter at receiver, you'll always be like, yeah, we're pretty good at receiver, but you'll always be like, yeah, we can also get better at receiver. And they went and got a different guy that we discussed on this show, a veteran, a savvy, very good. I don't think he's an all-time great, but I think he's a very good, very consistent player. He's as good as it gets still. I think he's still one of the top 10 to 20 receivers to me in the sport. He's vertical. He runs great routes. He has great body control, great hands, and that is the man, Mike Evans. Welcome to the 49ers.
I love the move. I love the contract. I know that, Adam Schefter tweeted out, well, it's up to $60 million. First, I said it on the instant reaction show that I did. The fact that the contract did not break immediately with the signing tells you that it's good for the 49ers. Because if it was good for the player at all, the agent would have thrown it out there. And then a little while afterwards, we got it's worth up to this amount of money, which means it ain't worth a hell of a lot of money. And you know what? If Evans lives up to the incentives and anything in there and the Niners have to pay that money, that's a good problem to have. That means he's kicked ass.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going off the top of my head, but Richard Sherman got a 3-year contract when he negotiated it himself coming off the torn Achilles with the 49ers. Did he not?
I can't remember, but probably.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the most easy comparison for this one, it's not Sherman. Sherman is just the 49ers example of signing a 33-year-old regarded Super Bowl champion veteran. It is the Davante Adams deal that the Rams did, which it was supposed to be essentially a 1-year, $22 million deal for Davante Adams last year, and they were going to check this year, but Davante Adams was so good, they're absolutely keeping him this year. That's what it looks like. And so similar thing, it seems, for Mike Evans, where this is probably a 1 or 2 year deal, and that third year is so that they can get the numbers all inflated and probably prorate a few things over a longer period of time. Ultimately, what I love about this move, Rob, is the Niners have a lot of needs. We've been very good this offseason, I would say, you and I, at identifying that they have had a lot of needs, but they don't have that many opportunities to go be able to solve all of that. And somewhere amongst all of us, we still expect them to be able to complete solving all of these needs to some capacity and building a team that's ready to compete next year, ideally for the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And so I like this move for 2 reasons. One, it allows them to focus elsewhere this offseason. You say we have a starter at receiver. We know who our starters are at receiver. You don't have to worry about it anymore. The rest of the offseason is about filling your receiver room, which you can do a lot easier than having to find a guy that you have to be guaranteed to start for you. That solves one thing. The second part is that they could focus on receiver later. They're not tied to anybody so long-term, because the problem with signing somebody like Doubs at 26 is that you're kind of in. You're like into Doubs for the next year. You're in the next 3 years of the Doubs business. And it's like, well, if you want to get better at receiver, you're always going to be like, well, we pay him $15 million and he's pretty good. Do we really want to get better at receiver? Now you have a solution right after Mike Evans. You have a different place that you can go at receiver.
It helps when you talk into the actual microphone when you're doing
Sorry
a
about
podcast.
that. I got a phone call. Yeah, my bad.
Throwing that out there real quick. Schefter even said on the Pat McAfee show that it's not a real 3-year deal. Quote, it's really a shorter term deal than that, but it's going to be called a 3-year deal for cap purposes, which is exactly what the 49ers should be doing. The question is, and you kind of touched on it, what is Mike Evans at this point in his career? He's going to be 33 years old. In my head, I look at him like a supercharged Juwan Jennings, right? Guy that can make tough catches, can make contested catches, can be your biggest threat in the red zone, which I think is what Mike Evans is going to be. If you get 700 yards and 8 touchdowns from Mike Evans, I think that's a damn good signing. If you get anything more than that, I think you got to look at it like it's gravy. I looked up Anquan Bolden's numbers with the 49ers. Anquan Bolden was 1,100 yards with San Francisco. If I got 1,100 yards from Mike Evans this year, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah, I think what he's going to be is something that they haven't had in the entire Kyle Shanahan tenure. They haven't had a guy who lines up. He just lines up on the outside. And he wins. He lines up off the ball on the outside, and he wins just on in-breaking routes, out-breaking routes, vertically. Those are the 3 things you look first when you're talking about, is this guy a number 1 receiver? Can he win vertically? And then can he win on in-breaking routes and out-breaking routes? He's going to do that. You're going to see routes in this offense that you saw with Brandon Ayuk, but much more frequency because of Mike Evans' big frame. That's going to allow them to throw a lot of deep stop routes, a lot of deep in-breaking routes over 17, 18 yards down the field. And that's where Brock Purdy excels. I'm totally with you. Where I also see even more of this being a benefit, Rob, is in the red zone. This guy is outstanding in the red zone. Great body control, outstanding hand-eye coordination, incredible ability to win with his size. They need to replace 2 things with this receiver signing. They need to replace a starting receiver, obviously, and then they need to replace George Kittle in the red zone area, who's kind of their supreme go-to red zone target. He does both of these 2 things. And then finally, like, Rob, there's also an element where they couldn't have gotten like a bad receiver here because they have to do justice by the quarterback they just paid. And when they put good weapons around this quarterback produces. We've talked about it. Brock Purdy with good weapons goes to the NFC Championship game. And so if you're saying this offseason, you're saying, well, we're not going to really focus on receiver, you can't just walk out there with Kendrick Bourne again. You need to get a real someone that you can throw the ball to on the outside. This is as good as it gets. And then on top of it, you get all the little things, which is that he's a pro. He plays just about every game. Now he's got the hamstring. We'll see if it's chronic or if it's something that was just a 1-year blip for him. We'll find out. But outside of that, he's everything you could want.
I said it on the instant reaction. He's exactly the mentor. They got Emmanuel Sanders because they wanted a mentor for that wide receiver room. Here's Mike Evans, the ultimate professional, always shows up, always, regardless of play caller, quarterback, head coach, whatever was going on in Tampa Bay all his years, all he did was produce day in and day out. I love that. Plus, he's going to be extra motivated, right? Veteran guy going to a new place. He's going to want to show out, play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I just think it's a damn solid move. I think that I'm really interested to see how Brock plays with him. Because I think there are times where Brock is just like, I'm just throwing it up. One-on-one, I'm just throwing it up to my guy. Which the Niners, we always talk about the speed, right? Oh, they need to add speed. And they do. They also needed to add a little height in the wide receiver room. They didn't have like a big, tall receiver. Juwan Jennings was 6'3". He was one of the tallest ones. Now they've got Mike Evans is 6'5". I kind of want to see what Brock does with him. It'll be fascinating to see how quickly they can get kind of acclimated to one another because we know Brock is sort of I don't know how to say it, but he needs chemistry with his guys because he's such an anticipatory thrower that he needs to know where they're going to be and when. So I can't wait to see how all that works.
So I'm trying to think. He played with that guy who was a total bust, who was 6'5" in college. Was it Hakeem Butler? I think they played together for a year, maybe when he was a freshman in college. When you said 6'5", that's what I was thinking of. Besides that, I think they're going to be on the same page from day one. Mike Evans, a pro's pro. He understands how to get open. He understands where to be, when to be for the quarterback. And he understands like how to catch the football when it comes to him. These are like he gets all the little things when it comes to playing receiver. I think they're going to be on the same page for sure. I wouldn't even be surprised if he has a lighter offseason than what we expect. I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners kind of just trickle him through the offseason and get him into the season. Because I don't think this one's going to be that much of an issue. Like, I think this is the kind of player that's made to play with Brock Purdy.
But how can they do that? How can they do that, Vish, when you have to be healthy and you have to be participating in camp in the preseason as a wide receiver? Otherwise, you can't possibly hope to learn Kyle Shanahan's system or get any playing time or any targets whatsoever.
Well, yeah, that goes for most people, unless you're Deebo Samuel.
By the way, I was pleasantly relieved that Deebo Samuel did not happen today. Now, maybe, look, it could be announced tomorrow or any day after that. Who knows? But I was really worried that it would be right out of the gate. Boom, Deebo Samuel returns home to the 49ers. I don't want...
Guys from South Carolina.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. I don't want Deebo Samuel. And Whiskey Guns Trucks asked, hey, fellas, thoughts on Greenlaw, who just got released by the Denver Broncos? No. These guys were not good enough when they were younger and faster. You don't want them when they are older and slower and more expensive. Hard pass on both of those guys.
Yeah, so Deebo, definite no for me. Deebo is pretty simple. Deebo is kind of, I tweeted about this actually, because I think it's like an interesting thing with Deebo. Like, do you remember the Cam Newton thing where he can't be a backup quarterback because he's like too famous, too good to be a backup? So either he's your starter, he's out of the league. That was like the narrative around him. Well, whatever that was characterized to be, that actually exists for Deebo Samuel. This guy is not made to be the number 3 receiver, the number 4 receiver, a veteran receiver, and all that. No, he's made to either be the star receiver, featured player on the offense. They throw to him. They have a play set around him. They have a skill set around featuring him to do certain things, and the offense is built throughout doing that. Or there's really no role for him because Deebo is really 2 things. He's horrible without the ball, and he's one of the best players we've ever seen with the ball. And it comes down very simple now. He's not good enough without the ball to fill a role on an offense, and he's not good enough with the ball to get a role on an offense. He has no value to me. And this is someone who says that was one of my favorite players ever. Yeah, he has no value to me. You should not be in that business. Who was the other name? Sorry.
Dre Greenlaw.
Dre Greenlaw. I'm a little more. So Dre Greenlaw, I'm 50-50 on. Him getting cut makes me think, okay, the market's not going to be that bad maybe in terms of paying him. He just got paid last offseason. He got cut. Now, he doesn't play a lot of games. That's one. He's a walking penalty every 2 games. That's the other. But you can't deny the presence and the physicality he brought even to Denver. Like, Denver is going to miss that. Like, you could see that when Dre Greenlaw played, their defense was different. I probably wouldn't go there. But if they bring Deebo back, I would be upset about it. If they bring Greenlaw back, I'd be like, okay, I'm fine with that. Not exactly maybe what I wanted them to do, but I'm fine with it.
Let me just start with Deebo. When you were negotiating with Deebo in 2022, big part of the thing, right? He got all mad because the 49ers said, you're not going to age well, right? They didn't want to give him a 5-year contract because they were worried about how he was going to age. So instead of that, they gave him a 3-year deal, and then they traded him and took a $31 million cap hit to do it. Now they want, people want the 49ers to sign Deebo and bring him back in what would have been the 4th year of that 5-year contract. It makes no sense, right? You don't want to give him those years when you're renegotiating, but then you would sign him back 2 years later. Like, no, your instincts were correct. Do not do it. You're 100% right. He's terrible with the ball in his hands or without the ball in his hands. He gives up on routes. I mean, it was all bad. Did people forget how bad it was his last year with San Francisco? He's dropping balls left, right, and center. He's complaining that he's not getting enough targets. Like, he
doesn't play special teams.
Right. What problem does Deebo Samuel help the 49ers solve in 2026? Doesn't help him get younger. Doesn't help him get faster. Doesn't help him get cheaper. Like what? He doesn't solve a problem. So there's.
I bet you Jed loves Debo. And I bet you that's like the one thing that works in Debo's favor, because who sold tickets the last 5-6 years for the Niners like Debo? I'm sure Debo's got a sweet spot with Niners ownership and stuff.
Oh, Kyle, we know Kyle loves Debo.
Well, Kyle for sure, but even more than Kyle, like I'm sure there's like a lot of love for Debo because, I mean, let's face it, Rob, in the Niners era of, actually, they're still well within that with Kyle Shanahan, but in that tenure, like Debo is one of the 3 or 4 most popular players. Like they would have probably, after Kittle, Warner, probably done most Debo jerseys, right? Bosa maybe.
Extremely popular, had swag, physicality, was versatile. He's extremely popular, but it's over. It is over. Jonathan Rourke says, sign Debo to a one-day contract so he could retire a 49er. That's the only contract I want the 49ers to sign with Debo Samuel.
He played 5 years. That's not the kind of guy that needs to sign for a one-day contract to retire with the team. That's the kind of guy that needs to retire in silence.
Wow. Okay. Now, Greenlaw, again, he's injury prone. Like we all talk about the 49ers injuries in the substation. It's like, no, why do guys keep getting hurt? Because you keep signing injury prone guys. Dre Greenlaw, the Broncos just signed this guy to a contract and then they immediately cut him after 1 year. That's the guy you want to bring back now? I get it. What if it's cheap? What if it's a 1 year deal? I get all that stuff. To me, it's
you know what my fear is with Greenlaw internally, and I wonder if this was the issue in Denver. For all the physicality he brings, I fear like there's a line you have to play until, and I think Greenlaw is just over that line. And I think that's why you get the penalties with it. And secretly, you know what I wonder deep down? And I say this as someone, if they sign Dre Greenlaw, I will compliment it. I will be okay with the move. I'll be happy with it because of the energy he brings. But secretly, I question, can you win in the playoffs, like the big game with Dre Greenlaw on your team? Because will he do the dumb thing that gets you a 15-yard penalty in a big spot in a big game?
Well, look, the last time I saw him in a big game was the Super Bowl, and he was unbelievable. He was unbelievable.
Played a quarter.
He was playing out of his mind.
He played a quarter.
Yes, he did. But he was a big part of the reason that Kansas City didn't do jack squat offensively in that quarter that he played in. Benali, I like this comment, says, I am admittedly a hypocrite because I don't want them to run it back with Debo, but give me Dre back, please. You know what? I respect it, Benali. If you can admit it, I respect it. Part of this is sports. We love this team. It's not always about thinking with your head, especially for fans. It's about thinking with your heart. I get it if he's one of those guys where you're just like, you know what? Screw it. I want him. That's how I was with the
I don't think they're the same, though, because Dre Greenlaw was good last year. Debo was not. That they're not the same players to me. Like Dre Greenlaw would help this team. Debo wouldn't. And my last point about Greenlaw, it isn't that he hasn't performed in big games. He's absolutely performed in big games. It isn't that they haven't won big games with him. We've seen them win big games with Dre Greenlaw. But I still question, when you're in a big game with Dre Greenlaw, do you have to be worried that one time random there's going to be some 15-yard penalty? And those things matter. Like Kansas City, New England, these teams, they don't have dumb 15-yard penalties in a lot of these big games. That stuff loses you these big games.
Well, it's not just Dre Greenlaw having a dumb penalty in a big game. It's Dre Greenlaw having a dumb penalty in any game.
Yeah, any game.
Big ones are included. He doesn't just turn it off for the big games. That's the problem. Those guys are incredibly frustrating, but I get the attachment to Debo and Dre because like they, on opposite sides of the ball, kind of embodied those 49ers. Dre Greenlaw was a monster, a sledgehammer at linebacker. That's exactly
he still is.
Right. That's what Debo was too. Like,
yeah, Debo definitely was a long time ago.
They embodied that era. But obviously the 49ers have some linebacker issues. Like they signed Eric Kendricks off the street and then immediately put him in the lineup, and they were like, oh, our linebacker play got a lot better. So somebody's going to have to pick it up at linebacker.
Don't forget Garrett Wallow, man.
Yeah, and he's played like for a hot second. You were like, damn, all of a sudden we're looking better in the middle. The D Winters isn't out there. I don't know. But somebody's got to pick it up. I mean, there was a reason they spent a top 100 pick on a middle linebacker last
Oh,
year.
they got screwed by that. They should send him to Tennessee for a 5th-round pick and put a cherry on top of that.
Well, I'd be fine with that. But, regardless of what Nick Martin is as a player, they clearly saw a need there. They were like, we got to have somebody. It didn't work out.
I totally agree, and it's way too early to say it didn't work out. The joke was more what I was getting at was they drafted him because it seemed like Robert Saleh was the guy that really wanted them to draft Nick Martin. And Nick Martin might still be a good player. We saw like how fast and physical he is. Both of those things definitely popped out the little we got to see him play. It's just never a good thing when Curtis Robinson and Luke Gifford are getting on the field ahead of you as a 3rd-round pick rookie. Like, if those guys are getting on the field ahead of you, you're not doing something right for them.
Benjamin, YouTube channel member, says Vish still not wearing any gold standard swag. What the hell?
I forgot. My shirt is right there, actually.
On.
I was supposed to wear it before the show. You didn't remind me.
I didn't remind you? Will I have to do everything for you, too?
No, just send me a text. Be like, hey, Vish, make sure you wear your shirt. And I'll be like, you got it, Robbie G.
We got some more details about the Mike
breaking news
financial situation. It is a 3-year contract that's worth $42 million with $16.3 million guaranteed.
Yikes.
That's
not even close to Devontae Adams.
That's why you knew it was going to be a good deal for the 49ers, because they didn't announce the terms right away. 3-year contract that's worth $42 million with only $16.3 guaranteed. Incentives, he could earn way more. Great. And if he hits them, great. It'll be well worth it. This is a fantastic move by the 49ers.
Yeah, it's a great move by the Niners. I think we're all aligned there. I'm very shocked that Mike Evans on day one of free agency only got $16.3 million guaranteed. I guess he is 33.
It's going to be 33, hamstring injury, broken collarbone last year. There's certainly some red flags there, but the more I find out about this deal, the more I like it.
I guess maybe there were less teams also in on receiver once Indianapolis re-signed Alec Pierce. But yeah, I mean, again, $16.3 million guaranteed. Good for the 49. Good for Jed York.
This is a move, man. This is there's no downside to this move.
Jed York's kid is getting an extra $1 million in his trust fund tonight.
And I've seen people say like, oh, it wasn't about the money with Mike Evans. He wanted a new challenge, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm sure he did, but money always matters. Like,
no, 100%. And when you see he's getting that to pay the state income tax that goes from going from Florida to California, like there must have been something that he didn't want in Tampa Bay, or they must have been lowballing the hell out of him. Like this must have been the only multi-year deal he could have gotten or something like that.
Well, don't forget, I mean, they're another play caller for the Bucs. This is like what, the 5th in the last 5 years, something crazy like that. Maybe he was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to go and try and get one more ring. And he thinks the 49ers are closer to that than the Bucs.
Yeah. Maybe Shanahan sat him down and said, hey, look at what I did with Andre Johnson. Look at what I did with Julio Jones. Now, you could never move like that. You're never as talented as those guys, but you're pretty good. Here's what I could do with you. There's a 6'5" white guy that he had in Houston. I don't know if you remember him, Kevin Walter.
Yeah, Kevin Walter.
Reminded me nothing of Mike Evans, just that fact that he was 6'5" and we're naming 6'5" people.
Okay. I was going to say something else about the Mike Evans deal, but now I can't remember what it was. But nonetheless, I am happy. Everybody should be happy. We'll see if they do anything else at wide receiver. I mean, Romeo Doubs hasn't gone anywhere yet. Juwan Jennings hasn't gone anywhere yet. Kendrick Bourne, however, won't be on the 49ers. He got a 2-year deal from the Arizona Cardinals. He should send half of that to Kyle Shanahan for basically getting it for him. But Bourne won't be on the team. Do you think there's any chance Juwan Jennings comes back now that, we've gotten through this sort of frenzy and he still hasn't signed?
Honestly, maybe, but I just don't see how he fits with where their room is trending. Because now that you've filled both starters with Pearsall and Evans, and Robinson slates as your veteran depth guy, you essentially will fill spots 3 and 6 with a young guy, probably ideally a draft pick, and then one of those draft pick fourth rounders who will probably double up to play special teams, or another veteran receiver who doubles up to play special teams is where you're going to go to fill out your roster. Now, Jennings to me is looking to be paid like a starter.
I
The
know.
Niners lost that option for him, and so I don't see him coming back in that way. Dobbs to me is overkill at this point. That's not necessarily where they need to go in my mind, unless they're moving Pearsall this offseason and they want to start completely fresh with Evans and Dobbs, which maybe, but I like Pearsall enough to give it one more go. I feel like there's been enough talent and flashes shown where you take a chance with Pearsall for one more year and see if he becomes 1,000-yard receiver. So that's kind of where I stand. I feel like receiver is maybe one more guy after the draft, and I don't even think you're pressed to get that guy high anymore. Like if you drafted Romeo Dobbs, to me, your receiver, it's second round pick. Probably. That's how I would think of it. You need a guy that is talented. But with Mike Evans, and maybe I'm going to look really stupid because, Mike Evans hamstring acts up and something like that happens. But to me, if you're looking at, hey, we have Mike Evans, I'm thinking, damn, you can maybe draft one in the third round if you don't like the second round one. You can draft one in the fourth round if you don't like the round one or the second round one, and then say we'll come back and take a receiver high next year because we're not that invested in Mike Evans either. We just have him for this year, so we don't have to go get a receiver and we can focus elsewhere. But their focus is going to be defense, clearly, coming up. I think that's why they went receiver. They went and got a starter because they need a starting receiver. And then, people have been identifying issues across this offensive line. Let's set Trent Williams aside. They went and filled the one issue they felt like they had, which was swing tackle. They'll end up this offseason with a guard that competes with Barch, or another signing like Barch, or Barch in a draft pick that's like a third or fourth round pick. But that's what they're going to do at guard, and we'll see how tackle plays out. But to me, Vederian Lowe, that's their swing tackle. There you go. And Zakel will be their swing guard center. So they got 1 to 2 spots available for this offensive line. It's funny. They're not going to invest in this offensive line much more moving forward into this offseason.
Vederian Lowe sounds like a Game of Thrones character to me. Sounds like he fought beside the Blackfish at River Run, but got experience on both tackle positions, got experience at guard a little bit also. Kwesi drafted him with Minnesota back in 2022, traded him after 1 year. So, but again, it's a 2-year deal worth a maximum of $12 million with a little under $6 million guaranteed. We don't even know if that's guaranteed for injury or guaranteed at signing. It's a very, very small contract. But it's interesting that
they haven't had that player, though, right? They've needed it.
The 49ers go on day one of free agency, wide receiver and offensive line. And I think what it does, as you have been talking about, is it buys them a little flexibility going into the draft now. They don't have to get somebody. Now, of course, if they trade Trent Williams, you would feel differently. That was a thing that popped up today, was that now the Niners are open to trading Trent Williams because he's frustrated. They're frustrated. Bing, bang, boom. Who knows? That could all be a negotiating tactic. But right now, I don't feel like the Niners are under huge pressure, especially in round 1 of the draft. They could sit and let the picks come to them.
Yeah, I think the Williams one, to me too, the only way they move him to me is if they have a contingency plan. I think that's where they're at with Trent Williams, because they're so stuck to what he does right now in the offensive line market, right? Because if they have to trade him in June, like Vederian Lowe isn't here to start at left tackle, and Colton McKivitz isn't moving over to play left tackle, even if he was their golden helmet player to play left tackle in 2020. That's not going to happen. And so they're so beholden to what Williams does, because, I mean, people hate Brendel. They're very happy with Brendel as a starting center, right?
For $4 million when Tyler Lynch
is set.
$27 million a year?
Yeah, Pooney is set. Colton McKivitz is set. Left guard was a question mark from last year, but it was what we talked about. Clearly, from at least how it's been reported, they look at it as Burford was never supposed to be our left guard. We got screwed that Burford had to play left guard. And now they don't look at Burford as their swing tackle either. They got Vederian Lowe to do that. So they'll get a guy at left guard. either Barch in a draft pick, someone like Barch or Barch himself, and they'll have him compete with the guy. That'll be the left guard situation. So they're stuck. They need their left tackle. Unless they can get Rasheed Walker, and they're going to say, we're going to sign Rasheed Walker, and then we'll trade Trent Williams. Maybe they'll do that, as David Lombardi suggested. I wouldn't hate that, but I think I wouldn't like that, but I think they'd be like okay doing that sort of thing. I think anything beyond that, I can't see them, again, just shipping off Trent Williams, getting picks, and being like, all right, Vederian Lowe, that's right. That's why we signed you day one. No, that's not what's ongoing here.
Right. Lowe is not there to be the replacement for Trent Williams. If he is, something has gone terribly wrong.
Yeah. It's just funny. I feel like every offseason, what I find entertaining is most fans I interact with always have big plans on what they need to do with the offensive line. And every offseason, it becomes evident how little they're probably going to be going in that direction for all the projections, right? Like you see second round pick offensive linemen all the time, first round pick. It's likely going to be defensive line. At least that's how it's trending to me now, especially first round pick.
Yeah, I think unless Trent gets traded, there's no way they take an offensive lineman in the first round. Now, they may take some later. I personally would. And
maybe
then
one or two only, because they have Connor Colby too as a backup. They have a few guys that they've picked over the years that are just going to fill out this roster. And don't forget Nick Zakelj, man. That's a guaranteed number 9 on this offensive line to make the roster.
He won't die. They keep bringing him back. The comp picks were officially announced today. The 49ers got some 4th-round comp picks. They have 7 picks in the draft. If you're watching the stream, you can see them there. 1 pick in each of the first 3 rounds, and then they have 4 picks in round 4, 127, 133, 138, 139. A lot of people were saying, oh, this means the 49ers are going to trade down. To me, if you're going to trade, don't trade down, trade into next year's draft. Everybody says next year's draft is, going to be awesome and it's so deep and it's so great. Well, why you want more picks in a bad draft? Trade into 2027.
Yeah, I agree with you. Trade to get more picks in general. That's something I would like to see them do better as like a drafting regime. I don't think they work the board that well.
They don't work the board that well, that's for sure. But round 1, okay, let's say they go defensive line, right? Which is very possible. They were in on John Franklin Myers today. Apparently the Niners finished in 2nd behind the Titans.
Oh man, how do they even come up with that? Does the agent go, hey Ian, JFM is signing with Tennessee, but I want to let you know, tweeted out that the Niners were 2nd, or does John Lynch call Ian separately and he goes, hey, Ian, we were 2nd on John Franklin Myers? How does that work?
I would not be shocked if that happened at all. But I think it tells you that the 49ers recognize there's an issue there. They're probably going to go defensive line in round 1 again. Now in round 2, maybe there's a receiver that they absolutely love. They could go there. Do they go corner? People seem to want to ship Bernardo Green out of town. Maybe they go corner in round 2. Then maybe you get an offensive lineman in round 3. I don't know. We'll have to see. But, I could easily see a world where they go through the draft again and maybe there's like one offensive lineman taken with like their final pick.
Yeah, definitely possible. You know what else is possible?
What?
That John Lynch hears John Franklin Myers got signed. The deal went through. Tennessee, 3 years, $90 million. I'm arbitrary. 3 years, $90 million. He calls up his agent and he goes, I'll give you 3 years, $88 million for John Franklin Myers. Oh, he just signed for 3 years, $90 million? Shoot, but I was 2nd, right? No one offered 3 years, $88 million. Hey, Ian, go report it. I was 2nd.
I don't like when that stuff gets out because I do think it comes from the team that lost out. It's damage control. It's like, see, we tried. I hate that we tried. Oh, we're monitoring the situation.
It's really 49ers. And to me, it comes across like almost the way Jed York comes across, where it's like, I'm so conscious about what my fans are going to say that I'm like preemptively giving them something to be like, hey, look at the 49ers. Yeah, they did. My dad used to do this with me all the time. Like, he'd be like, the thing with Trent Baalke is he brought Stephon Diggs in for like a visit. I remember the Niners were really in on Stephon Diggs. I'm like, bullshit, they didn't draft Stephon Diggs. Who cares? But he's like, he knew something. He knew there was something to the Diggs guy. That's why they brought him to a visit. That's what this is like. Like, hey, tell everybody, like, look, we were in on it. And then your fans are like, hey, guys, we almost got this guy. Like, we really tried. We went after this guy. Who cares? It's the team you have. If you don't get him, it doesn't even matter if you were close. You didn't get him. You don't even need to let us know. Move on to the next guy. Tell us about who you got.
Oh, we were second. Hang the banner. Like, who cares? Second place for John Franklin Myers.
I don't even think it needs to be known, right? Like, we don't need to know that you almost spent money, so therefore you're not cheap. We'll judge that on the money you spent. You did a good job today.
And I was just bringing it up to show that the 49ers clearly are acknowledging the need there in the middle of the defense.
Right. I went on the tangent about the whole thing because once I heard that, I was like, oh, here we go again. They always do this. I hate that.
Chosen says Mike Evans was an overpay for a big name to make the casuals happy. It wasn't an overpay. I mean, you can't look at that contract and say that they overpaid. They got Mike Evans for less than what Juwan Jennings was supposedly asking for last year. That's not an overpay.
I think Chosen is saying Mike Evans' hamstring is shot.
Oh, well, that may be.
But
words in your mouth, Chosen. But
I actually don't look at Mike Evans as that sort of name. I really look at Mike Evans as, look, I think his career stats, like, people are going to start calling Mike Evans an all-time great, as he's not, in my personal opinion. Not even that my opinion matters, but I get to state it on this show. So he's not that type of all-time great receiver. But it's like a Derek Mason. No, maybe he's not Derek Mason. That might be a little mean. But it's like that sort of guy where he's been a really, really good player for many years. He's still really good. Like, that's the thing. When you watch Mike Evans play, the things that made Mike Evans good still exist. He's still a super long strider that can push corners vertically. He's still able to beat guys inside, outside. He still uses his body extremely well to hold off leverage. Great hands, great body control, great in the red zone. These were the things that made him a good player. He's quiet, he's subtle. I don't think Mike Evans was ever like game-breaking 1,500-yard receiver like Julio Jones. And I don't think his intention is to be that guy. I think he's going to be just consistently what he's been, which is pretty good, very good.
Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated writes, Evans is the best wide receiver in the NFL against man coverage, and like Adams, will dominate if Shanahan is able to scheme the defense into man tendencies. The 49ers, with their amoebic personnel, have set the modern standard for how an offense can dictate the personnel of a defense. However, some who have coached in the Shanahan system believe this move will have its largest impact in the running game. Evans is certain to draw a lot of double teams. He was sixth last year with a 35% double team rate, which means he'll draw safety help away from the running game. Lately, teams have been committing that additional safety to CMC, which helps explain the grinded-out nature of McCaffrey's rushing output last season. He had one of the highest percentages of eight-man boxes in the NFL last year at nearly 30%.
So there's two things with that, right? Like, let's be honest about one thing first. Receiver wasn't supposed to be a need this offseason. When you give the money you give to Brandon Ayuk, you don't expect to then come this offseason and say we need a starting receiver. The way that situation played out was catastrophic for the 49ers. So this is their best solution to say, we were amiss rebuilding our defense. We're amiss rebuilding other parts of our team. We didn't know we were going to be investing in a receiver 2 years after we paid one and took another one in the first round. So let's put the quickest, best Band-Aid on this problem while we figure out other things and then come back to this. That's the Mike Evans solution. And alongside that with Mike Evans, to me, is the man coverage thing. He's going to bring things to their offense that they haven't had in a while, which is heavy personnel, play action, roll the quarterback out, throw a shot the other side. Those are things that you have with Mike Evans. And to your point about the man coverage thing, that's what they miss with Brandon Ayuk. When they're able to use CMC and CMC's versatility, because they're able to make their run and pass so similar with CMC, and because of the way Shanahan schemes it, they're able to get really defined man coverage looks. They need people to separate versus those looks. That's why Ricky Pearsall had so much success early in the year, because he was able to win on those. I don't think Mike Evans wins the exact same way as Davante Adams. Like, I think Davante Adams winning against man coverage is art. I think Mike Evans winning against our man coverage is effective. But all the same, in all of those ways, I love that you went there because it all makes sense. And I think ultimately, Rob, the reason they had to go with that age is because, yeah, they did need to put a Band-Aid on the receiver issue while they went and figured out other things. Like, it was another need that they got screwed over for.
And they're not paying that much to fill it. That's the crazy thing. Like, this is a great 16 million guaranteed for Mike Evans. Yeah, that's a good deal. Benali says,
let's not do this.
How much? Let me read the comment. Benali says, how much of this signing was Kyle saying, screw you, Sean McVay, I'm getting my own Davante Adams?
First, he had a chance to get his own Davante Adams in Davante Adams and said no to paying him or Jed said no to paying him, whatever it was.
Right.
Second, Rob, just different tier of players to me.
Yeah, but I think I agree with Benali's point that it's like, hey, we need somebody against man coverage, a veteran player, that's still got something left in the tank. McVay obviously turned Davante Adams. I mean, the Davante Adams, Matt Stafford goal line connection, it was absurd. If you went zone coverage, they threw it to Puka. If you went man coverage, they threw it to Davante Adams. And it was just
it's who he was him and Aaron Rodgers have all-time statistics in terms of their connection. They had an all-time red zone connection. I think what Davante Adams has 120 career touchdowns, something like that. I want to say
something absurd.
Yeah, we're talking different tier player to me. But I love Mike Evans all the same. But this is where we go. Like when we say all-time great, to me Davante Adams is an all-time great. I don't. No one cares about my opinion, but I get to say it on this show. I don't think Mike Evans is.
Heineman says Kyle Shanahan is always a step behind Sean McVay. That's a fair comment. McVay is very quick to innovate and very quick to pivot. Kyle, I'll put it to you like this. The iPod wasn't the first MP3 player that was invented, but it was the most popular and it was the most, successful. Kyle Shanahan is not first in a lot of things, but when he gets around to doing it, he usually does it better than other people.
Is this specifically because he went and got a receiver to beat man coverage who happened to be 33 years old, so everybody is comparing him to the other 33-year-old who's good at beating man coverage that got signed?
I think that's the case, yes.
I don't think that's true. What has McVay been first for? Everything they do is a repackaging of what Shanahan has done.
No, they did the 13 personnel this year. Shanahan hasn't done that.
What did they do different out of 13 personnel? They ran their same offense, but they ran it out of 13 personnel.
Right. Well, that's different.
Okay. I don't know. I don't think McVay brings the innovations that he's given credit for. I think McVay is great at using the ideas that are available to him and then reusing things that work. But I do think Shanahan probably advances the game the most in terms of changing how you attack defenses. Even some of the way they unlock things with their own personnel. Like they've used Kyle Juszczyk in line with two tight ends and created that same sort of 13 personnel conflict. I think we organize the game based on groupings and things we understand, like personnel, which makes sense to us. I don't think they look at two backs and a tight end versus three tight ends if they're being all three used in line the same way, if that makes sense. Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of things that the Rams do that's just repackaging what the Niners have done with their personnel, i.e. the whole thing of 11 personnel, their whole turbo package. That was the Atlanta Falcons turbo package, except they switched out I think did they do it with two running backs? I think they did with Coleman and Freeman. They switched it out for Cooper Kupp, a third receiver. It's a lot conceptually is like the same thing.
Right. But I mean, again, like these are little tweaks. You've heard the expression, there's nothing new under the sun. Like he's making, for example, they were a run heavy. It was Todd Gurley was the engine of that offense. It was Goff was there, but it was Gurley was the guy moving it. And then they were like, okay, screw this. This isn't working. We're going quarterback. We're going pass heavy, and we're just going to throw the hell out of it. That is a big pivot with Sean McVay. Kyle has not really pivoted And I don't think it, but I'm not trying to ding Kyle.
But
I'm just saying.
I think what I think of McVay a lot recently isn't that he isn't really good. It is that he is really good, but there's a lot you can do when you have a quarterback like Stafford. Like he's got maybe the one guy still available in the NFL because Aaron Rodgers isn't this anymore. Mahomes is as well. That's physically talented enough to be able to do everything physically, but then mentally also capable of basically calling the whole game from the line of scrimmage. And I would say a lot of that evolution is just leaning on Stafford to be Stafford more. Now, you could make the argument Kyle wouldn't do that for a guy like Stafford, and that's its own conversation. I feel like maybe there's some evolution there because it felt like Brock Purdy had a little more license at the line of scrimmage last year in comparison to seasons past, and maybe they will give him more going forward because he can grow into the kind of guy that can dictate the game from the line of scrimmage. But yeah, I don't know. I've been in my McVay hater era, okay? I've been very upset about the attitude that he shows on the sideline and gets away from it with it, excuse me. I think McVay's body language and disposition it hurts more than it helps sometimes. And I don't think it's given enough. I don't think he gets enough like slack for just being a big baby.
He was a
just say
psycho
that?
last year. He was
Yeah.
he was like in those Seahawks games, the Rams Seahawks games, he was like the veins in his neck were he was
Totally.
freaking out. Like,
But
he
I
knows
think
who they are. That's the thing. He knows this is like our last best chance with Stafford to win a Super Bowl, to try and get one more of these. Plus, I think he's very aware of what winning 2 Super Bowls would do for his legacy and going to 3.
Oh yeah, because he's going straight to the media if that happens. He's got 2 sons. It's like all set up for him. I think he wants to ride off with Stafford. Like Stafford, we both get a Super Bowl. I go to the media. You go, put up with Kelly Stafford. Like we'll do that whole thing. For me, what it comes down to ultimately with McVay is I think he just gets a little too hectic on the sideline. And I don't think he gets enough flack for it. But I think what he does bring that Shanahan doesn't is I think McVay is able to create energy in a room. Like McVay is able to be that single source of energy that everybody reflects upon. And I don't think it's anything he does specifically other than McVay's personality is 100% all the time. Like, hey, man, how's it going? Hi, Rob. How are you? Like, he's the kind of guy in the office place that's walking around saying hi to everybody, smiling at everybody. Like, everybody's like, oh, that guy's into it. Like, hey, how's it going? Like, I'm into it too. I don't think Kyle brings energy that other people hype off of. And I think he knows that too, that one of his strengths is that he lets other people do hype up speeches and stuff for the game. Because I don't think Kyle is walking around the Niners facility and people are getting energy from Kyle. I think Kyle's probably got his hat super low over his face, coffee in hand, probably looking at iPad. Now, does it matter? I don't think so. I think everybody can have their own leadership styles. But if you're talking about like optimizing one single human being to be the perfect NFL CEO, ideally they have McVay's personality where they're just juiced up and everybody's just like, hey, how's it going? Like, yeah, what's up? You know what I mean?
I've seen McVay literally at the owners' meetings come on the set when I was producing Pro Football Talk for NBC and shake every single person's hand on the set. Crew.
Oh, I'm not shocked. And I'm sure you remembered everybody's name. He was like, hey, Rob. And you're like, wait, I told you my name once. You remember me?
He is that guy. I have literally seen it in person.
His hair probably never moved.
No, well, he's got very short hair anyway. With the last few minutes that we have here on the show, what do you want, if anything else, from free agency? Do you want them to sign anybody else? Do you want another tight end? Charlie Kohler signed with the Chargers. Unfortunately, I was bummed about that. I was hoping they would reunite Brock Purdy with his former tight end. That didn't happen.
I saw Twitter was a big fan of that one.
Isaiah Likely went to the Giants to reunite with John Harbaugh. I would have liked Isaiah Likely.
I didn't want that one.
Do you want anything else out of free agency?
Edge rusher.
But who?
So they're going to play the $5 million market with Bryce Huff, because if Bryce Huff becomes your third edge rusher at $5 million, all of a sudden you're cooking. I don't love him as the second edge rusher. I also wouldn't mind drafting. Like I'm all in on drafting and signing, and
Mhm.
maybe taking a chance this time with signing instead of like I originally was saying go premium, right? Like get a guy that you know is good. But now, if you're in a position that you feel good about receiver, because I did not expect them ultimately to get Mike Evans, and maybe I'm putting too much eggs into the Mike Evans basket because I really believe, like, yeah, you just got a really good starting receiver. Like that just happened. But yeah, I want them to get an edge rusher, maybe like a Boya Mafe, a guy that's high potential, can be good in this scheme, got rush potential. Yeah, I just want more defensive linemen. That's what I want. That's what I need. Um, I would like a veteran safety as well. A Brian Cook would make me like that's a dream. I think Brian Cook is a little too expensive for the kind of market they're going to look at safety, and that's totally okay in my mind. When you play a quarters heavy scheme, like I can't imagine investing that much in a safety personally. I mean, you got to have a good one. You can't have them playing the way the guys played last year, but ideally you're not spending so much money in free agency for a safety. Um,
Boye
but yeah,
Mafe went to the Bengals, so that is
he
not
already did. When did
yeah,
that happen?
about 4 hours ago.
Oh golly, I'm not caught up, man.
Trey
That's not.
Hendrickson is still out there.
Yeah, I think that one's gonna be a little too expensive for them. That's
He's
where I keep landing. And when we're talking 30, I hate the idea of giving a guy that's right there on 30 a big contract in free agency. Just even I'll even be like this, Rob. I saw the big was it 30? Is Max Crosby 32?
no, I think he's younger than that. Let me see. Max Crosby is 28.
Okay,
He'll
I'm
turn
talking
29 in
absolute
August.
nonsense. Okay, I don't know where I saw that. I'm talking absolute nonsense. Forget what I said, but even 29. I saw that 2 first round picks for 29. I don't love that. Shoot, the day I'm 26. If I see 27 next to my name, I don't love that. But
I'm
honestly, like there's a certain age when you're starting to pay guys and all of that where it's like I know you can get a Justin Smith and he can be really good signing him after 30. I just don't love the guy idea of signing a guy in free agency that's on 30 or 30. Again, I think I've been much more like just my own like philosophies on the NFL on this show than like, hey, what actually makes sense for the Niners? Because Trey Hendrickson's a hell of a player and he would make them automatically a much better football team. And that kind of rusher is such a good fit next to Nick Bosa, the one that can bend and get around the edge and get the quarterback to set up. But
Chosen says nobody signed Hendrickson day one. He isn't getting top money. That was
I
my
think
first thought.
it might not be long term, but I think he's going to get 1-2 years top money. I think the long term is because of that age.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure he's not going to get a 5-year deal unless it's a completely bogus 1-year contract with 4 years of funny money at the end of it.
Yeah.
Adam Schefter tweeted with the Saints signing
Oh,
Travis.
Jalen Phillips. There's another name. I know the concussions, but talk about a talented rusher.
There are apparently questions as to whether Alvin Kamara will get traded now because the Saints signed Travis Etienne. If you could get a late round pick
No.
for Alvin Kamara, would you do that and pair him with
No.
CMC?
No. I don't want to be in that business.
Phillips,
Oh, Jalen Phillips is signed too. Damn it.
so
Oh, 120. Okay, yeah, I'm not in the Jalen Phillips business. I take it all back.
what about trading for like a Kayvon Thibodeau?
I saw second round pick for that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah, a fourth round pick for Kayvon Thibodeau, one of those forts.
Yep, I would do that.
Yeah. Look at
But
us playing GM.
I'm not
Should we
giving him.
call Shane?
By the way, I was dead wrong about the market for Mac Jones. I really thought that he was going to be able to get out there for a second round pick or a third at worst. And not only that, nobody wants him at all. Nobody's even checking.
Hey,
So
hey,
I
Rob,
was
Rob. You
100%
know
wrong.
something? You don't have to be so hard on yourself. When you come
Well,
to this show and instead of saying you were wrong, just say Vish, you were right. It's better for all of us.
no, because I've talked about it a lot, and I don't give wishy-washy opinions. When I believe something, I come with it and I come with it strong. So when I'm wrong, you have to be just as strong in admitting that I was incorrect, that I completely overestimated the market for him. Nobody wants him at all, which is fine. That's okay. Great. Mac Jones is the backup quarterback this year.
I don't think I think nobody wants him at all is like, oh, Mac Jones isn't good. It's more like giving up something for Mac Jones doesn't really solve anything for you at quarterback other than you have a guy that might be able to finish out the year starting, but you probably got to go get another quarterback the next year anyway. And I think that's a tough place to be. I think where Darnold had the advantage over Mac Jones is for some reason Darnold by reputation was looked at as a guy that if you revive, he can start for you for like over a period of time. Like ultimately, that's what Seattle started him for. But I think Minnesota even looked at him as like, if you turn this guy around, this is like a real starting quarterback. I don't think Jones has that perception. I think Jones has the exact perception for the role he's in, which is if you need a guy to start before a young quarterback, that's Mac Jones. You need a guy to start while you're transitioning a team, that's Mac Jones. You want to have a really good, highly paid backup that can come in and replace your starter on the fly, that's Mac Jones. And then someone gets hurt, you're desperate, you need someone to come in on the fly that's a veteran that's going to be able to play, that's Mac Jones. I think that's his niche in the league. That's how he's perceived.
Well, I was wrong on that, but I still like him as a guy. Like, he definitely won me over last year. So you can't trade a player that nobody wants to trade for. So
a nice backup quarterback.
If that's the case, great. We'll get a nice backup quarterback and we'll rest a little easier.
I think if the Niners were more, I also will say this. I always feel it's this way. I feel like if the Niners were more realistic about what his value was relative to what teams were willing to pay, that conversation would open up a little more. I got tired of arguing about this on Twitter, but teams aren't stupid. Like, they're not going to give you a second round pick in Jordan Addison for Mac Jones, who's going to get $5 million next year and walk. Like, why? Why would they give you all of that? So you can have what you need to build your team and they can have possibly a backup quarterback? It doesn't work like that. And so I got sick of having that argument on Twitter. I think the Niners overvalue Mac Jones. It's what we said. I do think like their asking price was probably 2 or 1. That's what they probably think is worth it. It's what we said. Hey, Mac Jones is a quarterback that we can win 10 games with. Therefore, everybody can win 10 games with Mac Jones. That's the Kyle Shanahan classic.
Got this from Aaron Wilson, who tweeted out details of the Vederian Lowe contract. 2 years, $9.25 million, with a signing bonus of just under $3 million. He's got an option bonus. And it looks like there's a lot of void years. 2028 through 2031 are voidable years. Max average per year is $6 million. That's a weird one.
Did they say, wait, is he going to play guard?
No, LG is league year.
Oh, league year. I was like, that LG just stuck out to me on your screen. I was like, I'm unable to read what you're saying, Aaron Wilson. Wow. That's like not that much money for a swing tackle at all. He must not be very good for a guy that's getting signed on the first day of free. That's what you're getting on the okay. All due respect. But if that's what you're getting on the first day of free agency, not counting anybody's pockets, like you guys are all much more successful than me, but damn.
Well, you on the call before the show, you were like, oh, I didn't realize Vederian Lowe was on the Patriots. What did I say to you?
You didn't even realize he was still in the NFL, or he was in the NFL.
No, I said I didn't realize Vederian Lowe was on this planet. Forget Patriots. I didn't even know the man was alive. So,
yeah, I remember him when he was drafted. I had no idea that he got traded all that time back from Minnesota to New England. And honestly, I had not like interacted with him like at all in New England. Like I wouldn't even have known he was there. He was on nothing. No.
He does have one thing that even Trent Williams doesn't have. Do you know what that is?
The name Vederian Lowe?
No. A touchdown reception. He caught a touchdown pass last year.
Yeah, I did read that on his Wikipedia.
That is the only thing I know about him, and I only learned it after he signed with the 49ers. But Vederian Lowe in the fold, Mike Evans in the fold. We should just point out quickly, too, before we go, none of this is official. None of it.
How do you think that happened? You think there was a bidding war? You think they were like, You think Forrester went up to Kyle? He's like, Kyle, we got to get Lowe. Day one of free, like we got to get Lowe. And John Lynch is calling his agent, and like his agent's like, wait, you're calling about Vederian Lowe? Wait.
We'll take it. Tell me what the contract
wait. You're not calling about Trey Hendrickson? Like, let's say him and Trey Hendrickson have the same agent. You're not calling about Hendrickson? Wait, you want Lowe? Wait a second. Lowe?
Yeah, let's just say I don't think it was a difficult negotiation. But nonetheless, those two are in the fold. Everything becomes official on Wednesday. I'm sure there'll be
by
more.
The way, all jokes aside, Lowe solves a need. They needed a swing tackle. They went and got one.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people dunking on Vederian Lowe and the thing. I don't know if he's any good or not, but let's be honest, neither do you. Okay?
No, totally not.
Come on.
I more think it's funny that we do this whole thing about overpaying, and the guy got the most normal contract day one of free agency, which that's more where the humor is to me. I think that they needed a swing tackle, and to your point, he might be a good one. We'll find out. Let's hope he is. God damn, They need a good swing tackle. So let's
hope we never have to find out if he's any good. How about that? Let's hope he never has to.
What are you talking about? You and me are watching that preseason. We'll be breaking it down every Monday.
True. We will be breaking it down.
We'll be asking why Nick Zakelj is going to make the roster again.
Why not? Why break the streak of consecutive years asking that question? But regardless of what happens, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Gold Standard 49ers Podcast Network. We're live every single weekday breaking it down. We go live after breaking news. As you saw, I was live earlier today when the Mike Evans news broke. It's the perfect time to hop on board. We are in prime refresh Twitter season. So hop on. I promise you won't be disappointed. Vish, as always, thank you for joining me on this fine Monday, sir. I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely, Rob. You the man.